People have told stories of the strange and supernatural for centuries. Tales of the restless dead return to haunt the living. Whispers of damned souls doing the devil's bidding on earth. Rumors of inhuman things that still hunt in the old forests, untouched by the glare of modern life. There may be more to these stories than you could ever imagine. Join us tonight as we delve into the deeper truth inside these mysteries.
Hello and welcome to the Don't Break the Oath podcast.
Hello everybody, how the devil are you all?
Ahoy.
Ahoy.
So yeah, back on the rum.
You are, I'm not.
So today is a listener story episode.
What a cracker have we got for you today?
Yep, we've got alien abductions, ghost stories coming up for you, so stay tuned for that. Right, first thing is just to say, as ever, please, if you can, leave a review on iTunes. No, we've said it enough times, but that goes a long, long way to helping us out.
The reviews, they help us so much.
Yep.
They really do.
So, we've got a couple of recorded stories to share with you, but the first one is a story that was sent in by email from Randy. And Randy came to us by the way of Hillbilly Horror Stories. Jerry put out a plea and Randy answered.
You, Jerry.
So, thank you very much, Jerry, for that. Okay, so there's two stories here, and they are essentially ghost stories.
Yeah.
Okay, so if I'll just read them verbatim, and then we'll discuss it at the end. Okay, so the first one goes like this. My great-grandfather passed away when I was only 6 months old. My mum and grandma always told me how happy he was to have a great-grandson and how much he loved having me around. He is buried less than half a mile away from my great-grandmother's house. When I was 18, me and my younger brother lived with my great-grandmother for about a year. The house was old and made lots of noises. The attic was always kinda creepy, but the basement never gave me any weird feelings. So that's where I set up my bed and stuff. One night while I was asleep, I awoke. I was lying on my side, and at the foot of my bed, the door was open to the kitchen area. I felt like someone was watching me, so I slowly turned to look. In the doorway, clear as day, was my great-grandfather. He looked to be about 25 years old. He was leaning against the doorframe and looking at me with what I believed to be the look of approval or fondness. I looked back at him for what seemed like forever, but was probably only 5 seconds. And then I got spooked and turned on my stomach, covered my head with my blanket, and waited a few minutes, and looked again, and he was gone.
Well, there you go. So it's usually the same case, isn't it, where they come back and they're always between, 20...
Yeah, the prime of life.
The prime of life, where the best, say life begins at 40, I don't think it does. I think,
Well, like I say, old people say that,
well, okay. But it's always between 20 and 30 years old where they're at the best times of their life, I suppose.
Well, I did ask Randy that, and he said that that would have been the time that he met his grandfather met his grandmother, so it was like a happy time in his life. And again, why spirits can come back at what age they want to.
Again, this is just your body you've got now is just this. It dies. The real you doesn't. You go on and you go into another body. Again, who wants to go in a spirit world as a 95-year-old codger?
Well, indeed,
you're not mobile. 2025, you're fit as anything. So I saw my dad full on in the bedroom, and my dad died. He was just about 46, 47. My dad died, but when I saw him, he was between 20 and 25. Young. He was like a hippie. Them 70s. With their hair down and that, and
full of
life. Yeah. Again, I think it's because that's the best time he enjoyed in that lifetime. That age, that fitness.
Right. Well, story 2 is a little bit more, a bit of a sadder story, really, but I'll give you again that verbatim, and then we can talk about that in the end, okay? My mother was killed by a hit-and-run drunk driver when she was out walking the dog very late at night. I was only 26 years old. The driver was actually somebody my brother and I had gone to school with. I was out of town when I got the call early that morning, and I came home to be with the family. Most of the time, and for the few weeks after, was a blur. However, one thing I remember perfectly. I can't be sure if it was the same night I found out or the next night, but I had a dream. The most lifelike I've ever had. My mother came to me and showed me the night she was hit. I saw it from two perspectives. One from inside the car as if I was sitting in the passenger seat, and the other through her own eyes. I saw through her eyes, but they seemed to be barely open. She always had trouble sleeping, and I believe that she was too tired to be out safely walking the dog.
Okay.
I could see that she was standing further into the road than she should have been. I could see her dog, and then it switched to inside the car. He was cruising down the road, listening to music, not really paying attention. I couldn't see down the road to see her, but out of the window I could tell it was the same road in my hometown where it actually happened. Then I see him take his eyes off the road to look at the radio or something in the cup holder. He was swerving and looking away, way longer than he should have been. The view then switched again, back to my mum's view. She was looking down, not really walking. Her dog was barking as if to warn her to get off the road.
Yeah, so obviously the dog was dog new.
Yep. She turned around to look where the dog was barking, but all she could see was headlights. Then, in my dream, everything just stopped, and all I could see was white. Then she began talking to me. Even though I couldn't see her, she wanted me to know what really happened. How they were both at fault. She didn't want me to spend my life angry and hating him for what he did. He had made a mistake. He was into drinking and drugs. She told me that when he got out of jail, he would turn his life around and be a way better father to his kids. She said she was making a sacrifice, and if that was to be what come out of it, then she was happy. She really was that kind of person. After that, I woke up. Immediately, I felt half the anger I had before the dream. I was able to forgive him for the initial accident, although not for running and leaving her alone afterward. He's been out of prison now for almost 2 years, and from what I can tell from random social media posts that I ran into about him, her prediction was true. He has his life together and is doing well.
Yeah.
So, again, it's
some people come back because obviously the children can't, it's affecting them that much, and it spoils bits. It's their lives, devastated. So I think they try and come back and say, look, I'm here, I'm okay, I'm
safe,
fine, I'm safe, I'm
yeah.
Okay.
So it gives you sort of closure, yeah.
Again, I've seen a couple of animals, get hurt on the road and killed on the road. And it's a family member. It must be horrendous.
Absolutely,
it must be horrendously.
Can only imagine. Yeah.
I can't not imagine that, but again, they do try. I say they do try and come back and try and console the children or the family members and say, oh, look, I'm okay, I'm fine, I'm here, I'm okay. And,
like I say, what is good is that it's a tragic story, but at least it's got that. It has got that, because like most people, if something like that happens, they never get answers and all the rest of it. Randy was able to see from both perspectives, to see what actually happened that night, and get the closure from that.
Absolutely,
which is fantastic in a way, isn't it?
Yeah.
So
it's great.
So thank you for those stories.
Yeah, thank you very much.
And if anyone else wants to share a story,
please if you've got any stories out there, you've got any stories and you'd love to say, I'd love to tell somebody, just get in touch with me and Lee. We'll give you a little podium, won't we, Lee?
Absolutely,
let you speak. And if not, we'll just send it in by email and me and Lee will read it for you.
Absolutely.
But
okay, so next we've got George, and this is an interview with George.
Yeah, he's brilliant.
Okay.
You like George.
AKA Victor.
Yeah, George/Victor.
Yeah. So, long story short, he had some problems when he signed back into Facebook. He had to make a new account. So he used his second name, which is George. So his actual first name is Victor. So it's an alien abduction story. Okay. It's got parallels to the Dale Harder story, which we
sent in Dale's, some details because I think it's on the same wavelength.
It's very much so, yeah. So, if those who haven't listened to that already, I think it was called Interview with an Alien.
That's right.
The Dale Harder one. We've had him on after that, but the first one was that. So yeah, George comes on to tell us that, and he also sent us because he did some hypnosis
regression, was it?
Regression channel
regression, yeah.
And he's actually sent us a clip of that. Well, I say clip, it's 40 minutes long. It's the actual full session where he got answers to what had been going on.
Yeah.
And it's quite intriguing and quite a good listen, actually. But what we're going to do, we're going to put that on Patreon. So if you go to Patreon, I think it's / Don't Break the Oath podcast, you'll be able to find that. If you just go on Patreon and type Don't Break the Oath podcast, you'll be able to find it. It is up there and it's free.
Yeah.
Okay, so if you don't pay for Patreon, you can go up in there and listen to this. So that's not a problem. So we'll play the interview with George now.
Yep.
Like I say, the channeling's up on there if you want to go listen to that, not a problem. Right, we'll play this and then...
Here comes George.
From South Africa.
Yeah.
I do.
What's the... So I suppose before we get into your story, which is obviously an alien... do you call it alien abduction? Is that what you call it?
Yeah, I think we can probably call it alien abduction because, I mean, that's what happened. You know, I mean, I was taken from my home onto the ships, and then the last time I then was totally awake. You know, they left me awake, and I can recall the entire thing, what happened, you know.
Yeah, right. Well, that's... that seems to happen, if you've had more than one experience, then generally they start to be a little more comfortable around you, it seems, doesn't it?
Yes, quite so, yes.
Is that your feelings as well? So before we get into your story then, I just wanted to get a general overview of South Africa, what the relationship between South Africa and the paranormal is, because obviously you've got the, the African culture there as well, so, when they're, mysticism and all the rest of it. So, where do most people stand on these subjects?
You know what? Lately, of late, the paranormal subject, is very, very common. Really, it's much more common than what people actually think. And it's not that strange, for people to start speaking about their paranormal experience, especially alien, experiences as such. So it's not that uncommon. Among the African tribe, we've got that Credo, person. I don't know if you know of him. He's got a big, thing on the internet and YouTube about the alien life, with the black people as such, with the African people. Yeah, say African people.
Is it Credo?
Yes.
That's him.
Yeah.
David Icke. Yeah, friend of David Icke.
Yes. Now, I've quite extensively listened to his stuff, and what happened when I listened to his stuff, I recalled of my own experience, a lot of things that happened as well.
Okay, so almost like it unlocked a few memories.
Yes, I unlocked a few memories. Also, what happened was a few years ago, when I really started remembering things, I got a guy from America, Rob Garthia, and he's a channeler, and then he did me a channeling session. Now, that was very interesting. I've actually got an audio of it if you want it. I've actually prepared it this afternoon. I'll send it to you. And what happened was I then asked him the question, was I abducted and stuff, apart from the fact, that I started getting conscious, about this whole thing. But let me tell you one thing. When he started answering my questions, which I haven't asked, and when he started explaining in detail of things that I've never said to people, I mean, that was just fascinating, Yeah. And that was just a very final confirmation of the experience that I had, was true. I've got no doubt in my mind, that it didn't happen.
Okay.
So that's very interesting. The other interesting thing with me as well is that from the age of 2 years old, I've got an exceptional retentive memory, My parents were always shocked if I spoke about things, about childhood, and they said, you couldn't have remembered that, you were too small, and I did. Now, when I was 2 years old, I would tell everybody I'm from the stars, my Irish grandmother, and then she would say, little Vic, where are you from? And I would say, oh, no, I'm from the stars, and everybody would laugh. And I was 2 years old with a very, very cognitive, about where I am and who I am. And I would think to myself, what's the problem? Why are they laughing? And so on. And the other thing is, I never, and still today, I've never really felt part of the human race. I'm one of those people. There's the humans, and here am I. So it's very, very interesting. Yes, from childhood.
Yeah, I've obviously I'm a psychic as well, so I mean I had a load of stuff happen as a child, and you don't seem to fit in. You don't seem to, you don't want to go out and play. You don't want to do this. You don't want to, do what the usual children do. You just want to stay away.
Yes, exactly.
It's
and I must tell you what happened. To me that really. Opened my final memory is that I was one day listening to David Wilcock.
Yeah, David
Wilcock.
Yeah.
And I was listening to him, and David Wilcock spoke about the mass abductions. Where they would abduct people, en masse, and this is what happened to me. And I mean, I was listening to the detail that he was giving, about how it works and what happens and stuff like that. And he was telling my story. It was my story. It was exactly what happened to me, to us, And then Crader also speaks about that, about the mass abductions and stuff like that. Now, I never had a bad experience, with the with my taking away. It was between the ages of 2 and 5, although I think rather was maybe 2 and 6, around about there. And the very last time that they took me, I was completely conscious, 100% conscious. I saw everything. I saw the ship. They spoke to me and whatever. And we can go into that detail, if you want to.
Absolutely.
And with and with listening to David Wilcock that spoke my story. And with doing the channeling with Rob and Treble Nitye, I mean, giving me information that I've never spoken about anybody. I've never said to anybody about it, and boom, it just opened up everything. It was just so amazing. And lately, I've also had a visitations. Personally, I think it's my star family. This is what I. So now that's very interesting. This has happened to me the past 4 months, and that's also a very interesting story. So, guide me. Well, what do you want to say? You've got an overview of the situation now.
Indeed. Let's start with the very first time you recall this happening to you. Is this a conscious memory? Has this always been a conscious memory, or is this something that came back to you later on in life?
It's a combination. It was a conscious memory, and then later on in life, listening to certain things, it just like popped over, and wow, yes, and then I started remembering the finer details, the finer details.
Okay, so let's start at the beginning then. When did this first take place?
Yeah, right. We lived in Johannesburg in a suburb called Brixton. I know there's a Brixton in America, in UK as well.
Yeah, Brixton, yeah.
And Brixton. Yeah, I grew up in South Africa, Johannesburg, Brixton. And what would happen is this is the first memories I've got, of this. Then what happened was I then this was my first memories. I would lay in bed. And then I would hear this sound that sounded like like that, And then I saw these small little beings. They had elongated faces and elongated, oval. What you might call it, bodies and stuff like that, and it was like a band. The one was playing drums. I think this is how I was very young, I'm 3 years old. I think if I look back today, this is the only thing that I could identify with, But then I was then gone and then came back, Now the very last time that then happened was. and the funny thing happened now. There's something that just came off now. I think there's somebody present with me. Okay, nevertheless. Then the very, very last time, what happened was I was fully conscious. And that was also the last time that they took me. I was around about 5, maybe 6 years old. I remember I went to a field, with grass and stuff. It was nighttime. However, the place was lit. It was a typical spacecraft, alien craft. It was a disc shape, silver, and it had a stand. It was on a stand like a tube. I saw the craft from outside. It was very beautiful, and there was a lot of people. It wasn't just me. There was a lot of people, and all of them were not conscious. That day, I was conscious. So I witnessed this whole thing. Then what happened was I then climbed into the craft, and there was like a bed kind of thing there, and then there were these 3 alien beings. They were greyish beings, and when you listen to the audio, exactly what Treb had described, this is how they looked. It wasn't the typical with the oval shape, eyes. It was more human-like eyes, but they were black.
Yep.
And what happened was there was like a round seat, because it was a round place. And there were people sitting all over there, rather young people. There were a lot of young people. But the one specific lady that as I came in, that was to my left, there was a woman there. She was around about 20 years old, and she had a blue floral dress on. And I remember feeling so sorry for her because she was not conscious, Yeah. We were never hurt. I never picked up once that we were probed or anything like that. And in the channeling, it came out that they only took skin samples. And then these 3 beings, called me, and I was, standing in front of them with this table kind of thing in front of me, and they were standing behind it. And then they spoke to me in a very loving and a very caring way. And then I remember, getting out of the craft, and then I basically woke up, and that was the very last time that had happened. After that, I've never had that, experience of them, basically taking me probably into another dimension. This is obviously what they do, and so I've never had that. I never had that woof woof woof, that sound, that I made, that I experienced beforehand. Yet I was visited by them, in my teen years. I did call upon them, and I've had a connection with them in my dream state and so on, but never a physical, a connection again. Okay. So yeah, that was the first time.
So
did they speak to you physically, or did they speak to you mentally?
I mean, it was all.
Did they speak to you on the first occasion? Did they speak to you at all?
Well, you must remember, I then realized, that I was always basically in a subconscious, unconscious state.
Yeah.
But that time I was fully conscious, but as in fully conscious. And also, strangely enough, I had a very mature way of thinking. I didn't feel like a 6-year-old child. I rather felt an adult, and basically equal to them. And I can't really remember the message that they gave me, but they did send me away with a lot of love and caring and stuff like that, but it was all a mental communication, yeah.
In total, how many times have you been aboard a craft? I mean, is it,
well,
because this occasion seemed to be like it was outside the craft almost, so.
Well, basically, I was conscious from outside the craft and then inside the craft, and then I remember coming out. This incidences happened quite a lot, that in the beginning I was very fearful, because what would happen, and that I also remember very clearly, is that, certain nights, when I fell asleep, when I heard the sound, that is every time that they came and picked me up. And at one stage, it was very frequent. It was very, very frequent. Obviously, I didn't speak to anybody about it. You were a child, children don't speak about these incidences and stuff like that. With me, it was exactly the same. And many times I would be afraid to go and sleep, because of this, But then after that very conscious experience, it never happened again. No, never, ever.
Okay. So, do you just want to talk us through the next time, or
Okay. Well, basically this happened now the past 4 months.
Okay.
It happened 3 times. So basically, what happened was I started calling out for my extraterrestrial family. Because I must honestly say, what's the other person's name? Lee and
Andy.
Andy, yeah.
Yeah.
As you've said, the same thing. You've always felt distant, from human race and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Well, myself. So what happened was, I do definitely realize. The other thing I also realized from a very, very early age is that about reincarnation. I knew that I've been here a few times before, but I also knew that I was not from here. So what happened was, I consciously started calling out, and I said to my family, I said, "Hey guys, listen, we're going through the crap on this planet, and we're sitting with this body which is, deteriorating, and back problems and stuff like that. I tell you what, just be nice and just come and say fucking hi, So that was it. So what happened was, now this is an extremely interesting thing. So one night, one morning, about between 2 and 3, I sort of woke up. You sort of you wake up with this jolt, and when you're in that stage, where you're not quite awake, but you're not asleep, that moment there.
Yep.
I opened my eyes, and these 3 tallish beings were right next to me. It was 2 males and a female. They probably were about 6 feet tall. They had like silver clothes on, and stuff like that. And as I looked, they disappeared. And I said, "Oh, wow, this is now very nice." So I went back to sleep. The next morning, I pick up my phone, my cell phone, which is next to my bed, because I use it as an alarm clock, because the electricity goes off, just as, when, and however, welcome to the new South Africa, So you cannot, honestly, you cannot rely on an electrical clock. We've done that, and we've had failures with it, because the electricity just goes off, like 2 in the morning and 6 at night, and it stays off sometimes for a day, sometimes 2 days. I mean, we've got a gas stove, and we've got some solar panel lights, to keep us going. So what we then do, is I then took my cell phone, I plug it in, and then at least the cell phone, alarm wakes us up, you see. So the next morning, I think it was a Friday night, I'm not sure, but any case, the next morning, I pick up my phone, and all my icons are different. Somebody tampered with my phone. My icons were gone, and they were shuffled around, and I thought, gee, what's this, So I'm very, grumpy and abrupt about this. Now I fixed everything up, and and my wife says, I said, I don't know what's happened with my phone. I then thought, my phone went into some funny mode, and it got all scrambled up, all the icons. But nevertheless, later on the day, I then put on my computer, Now, I only run a Linux system, I've been running Linux for 12 years, And so I'm battling putting the computer on, and something happened, and I thought, well, this is strange. I thought, the hard drive is going, and I reboot it again, and it reboots up. Guess what? My icons are different. My icons are different, and it's not, sometimes you get a function where you right click and say, put everything alphabetically, or put everything, in size order. You get these functions. It wasn't that. Some icons were just on another place, and some were gone. Others were added in. I had a completely different desktop. the morning after, and that has now happened 3 times in the past 4 months. The other time was now about 4 days ago in this year. I think they said Happy New Year. Picked up my phone, and the icons were different. So I said, how's it, guys? Thanks for the visit. And then again, one or 2 icons, had changed on my desktop. So I think they know Linux quite well. Yeah.
Do you get the? I mean,
yeah.
We could speculate all day about as to why that would be happening, I suppose. But I mean, do you have any inclination as to why you think they're doing that?
I just think it's to basically say hello.
Yeah. So it's like a little subtle, a little subtle thing that you would notice and nobody else would.
It is. Yes, exactly. Yeah. And then just before these incidences, these 3 incidences, about probably prior to that, maybe 5 or 6 months. We live outside of town. I live in a town called Zanin, and it means fruit basket. So we was in an area called the Lowveld. So we've got bananas growing here, and oranges and lychees and all the tropical kind of fruit, because we much lower. So nevertheless, and it's very hot here, it's, this is Africa. It gets like 32 degrees. Sometimes at night, we've got 26 degrees, And then what I would do is I would go outside, I love looking at the stars, because obviously I'm from there, you see. So, I'm standing out there and I look at the sky and I would say, how's it, guys? Just so show me something, do like a fly past or something, and I would chuckle, and nevertheless. But one night, I was sort of called outside, I had this thing and I must go outside, and I went outside. It's pitch dark, and I was looking at the stars, and this faint little dot in the sky suddenly grew to the size of about a chicken egg, bright, and it moved, from one space, from where I was standing, probably about 1.5 meters in like a point something second, to the next spot, and then it became smaller again, and there was a tiny little dot, and that dot wasn't there anymore,
Yeah.
So that was very interesting, and then after that, I then had these incidences which I said to you about. So about changing my icons on my phone and my computer. This has now happened 3 times.
So, is anybody else in your family affected by this? Because, occasionally this does go through generations.
Well, both my wife and I, we're on the same wavelength, about, spaceship aliens. She's a reader. I'm a reader. We're very highly intuitive and stuff like that. I don't know if they've been affected about it, although I do share my stories with them, as such. Maybe my wife has had her own, things that's happened to her which she hasn't said, but no, not specifically at this day and age. I wouldn't say that that affected, but I am most certainly, very conscious of the contact.
These visitors, you said appeared to you. The 2 males and a female. So you said it was 6 feet tall. Did they have the facial? You said they had a silver suit on, but could you see the facial?
Yes, I could. It was human-like, but very, it wasn't like the grey aliens. It was very human-like. Yeah. They had no beards. Or the 2 men had no beards. Maybe a little bit sharper in the images. Very typical to what people have drawn, maybe the Arcturians or something like that. Yeah. Pleiadians, Victorians. Yeah. They were definitely, human-like.
Yeah.
And I think what happens is that they probably in a higher frequency. They probably have to lower their frequency. To basically appear. But they definitely appeared as physical beings. In front of me. Yeah.
So, as far as agenda goes, where are you at with that? Why do you think this is happening?
Personally, I think it's to basically give me courage to say, hey, listen, just do what you're doing. You're not alone. We understand your situation. You're only here for a while. You're here for the awakening. And, talk about these things, I do not care, who listens to my story. I tell my story. People sometimes think I'm nuts, obviously, but I don't care. I don't care. I don't care to tell people, hey, you listen, I've been aboard, the UFOs, the spaceships, and this what happened here. I don't care who listens to it. And I think, this is basically a message I also have to share. But I think, these last visitations, I honestly feel it's my space family. I honestly feel it's my space family, yeah.
Yeah, I'm with you all the way on that because I believe in this stuff anyway. Yeah. I think I go along with Dolores Cannon. And other people as well. They call them the waves. You've got the 60s, the 70s, the 80s. Certain waves come in, a certain generation. Every 10 years, a certain wave comes in. Space family, they're here for a certain reason to do a certain job. You're only here for not too long.
Yeah, but I'm a 60s generation. I was born 65.
So am I. I was born in 66, so I'm a 60s wave.
A 60s wave. Yes, quite so. And I think our 60s wave, well, my wife as well. I think we've awoken now, and personally, I think that we are here to assist the new generation. Yeah. Because I must honestly say, since my awakening, I've had a very big, had a very, very big spiritual awakening, where we started listening to for us, conversations with God. We listen to Cryon a lot. I really like him. I listen to David Icke and, these kind of people, David Wilcock and these things just started making sense. And since we've been doing that, I must honestly say, not that I was very judgmental and stuff like that, but, we've got no prejudice anymore, However, I must honestly say, from a personal point of view, I've really reached a great frustration in my life, I am just so sure knowing who I am and stuff like that. And I'm basically sick and tired of that. And I think this is why I'm getting these visitations to say, hey, listen, I do feel their presence, and I'm not talking about my higher self presence, that I also feel all the angel presence, which is different. This is a definite, a family extraterrestrial presence, which I sometimes feel.
Yeah. Okay, I'm just interested whether, obviously, as this has gone on, you've got more familiar, and they've got more familiar with you, and so you've become basically conscious recall. But was there any stage where you felt fear?
That I felt what?
Fear. Afraid.
Afraid. Oh, afraid. As a child, yes.
Yeah,
for sure. Yes. As a child, at one stage, I was very afraid, and maybe, if I recall, that's amazing how one's brain works, what I think also why they kept me conscious the last time was to say, hey, listen, buddy, we didn't hurt you, we got to help you, we got to help your race, and we've got a great interest in you, and because after that, I wasn't afraid anymore.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
The other thing...
But as a child, most definitely I was afraid. Very, very afraid. Yes.
Yeah.
I was.
So, two more questions from me. So basically, obviously, with the conscious recall that you've had just recently, I mean, did you get to see the inside of the craft? I mean, did they keep you in one particular room, or did they let you wander about, or?
No, no. What they did is they just kept me in the room where everybody was sitting. So what was happening, it was round and there was a seat, well, made out of metal. And then, I had this lady right next to me, as I came in on my left. As I say, she was in her 20s, and I clearly remember her blue floral dress. And then the rest were all just children. But there were children inside, and the others were waiting outside. And I was conscious about the whole lot. There was quite a lot. That they would bring in as many as what they could fit in, and then, enhance them, whatever they did. And then they would take them out and bring the next lot in, and then they would send us home again, with whatever dimensional stuff they did. But yes, I was inside the craft. I remember getting into the craft, seeing them, but I was only in one room, with these three grey beings. But they had human features and human eyes, but they were black and just a little bit bigger, They weren't scary, but very loving and so on. And I do remember getting out again, and then waking up, and that was most definitely the last time. And after that, I also had no more fear.
Okay, so do you get, the Greys, the, Nordics, Pleiadians, whatever you want to call them, do you get the feeling that they're working together in this, or?
Are you talking about the second people that came to visit me?
Yeah, well,
like
the second people, the Pleiadian type people, you think?
No.
They're your family, no. So you get the impression that
I just think they're family. Yeah, I just think they are family. I do not think that they worked with those initially grey hybrid people.
Okay, that's interesting.
Because usually the Greys are just kind of like robots, aren't they? They're just kind of.
Yeah, these weren't robot-like, and no, I didn't pick that up. They had a lot of feeling, a lot of loving. I think that they were really a hybrid race. It wasn't these Greys that they commonly talk about with the oval eyes. Yes, them I would believe that they're rather more robotish, cyborg kind of things. But the ones that came and took us wasn't. No.
Okay, I'm just interested in the denomination of, or the makeup of the group of people that was there. Obviously you mentioned that you was adult, the female was adult, and then the rest are children. But what was the makeup of the, races and gender? Was it an equal amount of each, or?
I would say it was basically about an equal amount of each. Rather small children, most of them were like my age, 6 to 8, around about there. And then there were a few adults, like that one woman in, which I picked up was also a South African woman, South African woman. She was like in her 20s, 19, 20, but there wasn't much of them. It was rather, from very early age to maybe 8 years, around about there. The races, but I'm not sure, South Africa those years, was much different to now, and we never really mixed with any other races, So to me, they were basically white. I cannot recall seeing a non-European, child there as such. I cannot. I do in my mind's eye. I still see the whole group of children, and a few adults. Yeah.
You think these other children that were aboard that craft, do you think you've possibly met them in later life? Do you think that they live around you, or do you think they was from all over the world?
I'm not. You know what? I must honestly say, I'm not sure. I do think that they could have been from all over the world. However, that one woman, I did, when I saw her, I picked up she was also a South African girl. Yeah. But the rest, more than likely, now that you mention it, I rather think it was rather international. It was rather all from the world. I don't think that they were all just South African kids, No. So that's a very interesting question. But yeah, my answer is I would rather say that they were rather from all over the world.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. So why do you think it was in the ship for? Why was you all gathered inside the ship?
But basically, what happened was they basically enhanced us. As I said, I've been psychic since I can physically remember. I can tell you things as a child that happened to me, and things that were shown to me, like the death of my father, like accidents which was going to happen and stuff like that. Even
premonitions.
Yes,
Okay.
yes. I just knew things in advance, and I must honestly say, I come out of the generation, where we were did national service. I don't know if you know South African history, and all white men did military training, and for many years we had a war in Angola. It's all and you can just go and search it. The South African Defence Force war in Angola. I was part of that as well. And I must honestly say my intuition had saved us many times, at least on 4 occasions that I can recall, which was quite amazing stories that, I was asleep at one stage and then I was woken by this being and said to me, hey, listen, this and this is going to happen, get ready now. And it happened just like that. So as I say, I mean, I've been psychic since I can remember, and my feeling is that these beings most certainly enhanced, this psychic ability.
Yeah, I get the that crops up a lot, doesn't it? Where these people like yourself get that, don't they? They get that empathy and all that sort of comes through. So I mean,
yes.
It's almost like we're being switched on again, Whether we've been switched off in the past, I don't know. But
we're basically at the moment, most of the mass of mankind is asleep. We're just not switched on.
Well, quite.
We're just not switched on. So it's about time we flip the switch.
Yeah.
But, it's.
Quite so.
Yeah, but I can say definitely agree with everything he says because I believe in this anyway. So, but it sounds a fantastic story. Fantastic.
Thank you.
And don't worry about people calling you nuts because just keep on as you are, keep drilling it out there, and to everybody.
It's a question of I don't doubt myself. I mean, I knew it happened. I mean, I know it. There's no. There's no reason for me to think it didn't happen. It's not a psychological thing. It's not a whatever. It honestly happened. I've had an extraterrestrial contact. I mean, from when I can remember. I mean, 2 years old. Where you from, Little Big? Oh, I'm from the stars. And they would have such a good chuckle. And at 2 years, old, I thought to myself, what's the story? What's so funny about it? I mean. I'm from the stars. I mean, where else do you come from? Most not planet Earth. I'm from the stars. So I've had this connection. More than likely, I do think that I'm rather a soul, with a Earth incarnation, but not an Earthling as such. I've had some incarnations, which I do recall. Make no mistake, most definitely recall I had a session, being in the war, I picked up post-traumatic stress disorder, and then I got another American, and he did like a tapping session with me, and he cured me in 10 minutes. At 10 minutes, he cured me from 27 years of post-traumatic stress disorder. A very awakened man. And what came out during the tapping session is myself being a 12-year-old girl in a hull of one of these old ships, and I hated those. I still hate those ships. I wouldn't put my foot on them. These old ships, of the 1800s, 1600s, and the ship was busy singing, and it was nighttime. I mean, this thing got recalled in a past life regression, So that was really interesting, And I mean, I saw the whole incident clearly, bang, And then when I dealt with it, I'm finished. I mean, I've got no post-traumatic stress disorder whatsoever, nothing, But I do rather feel more non-Earth, alien. I definitely feel more alien. I'm much more connected to my alien family than my Earth incarnation.
Okay, so do you think this is likely to continue then, these visitations?
Yes, I think it's likely to continue. Yes, I do not feel that this is even remotely the last. Yes, I think I personally feel that I could definitely, picture myself, and I also do manifest it, having a, what is that, contact where they would one day land, and I go and say, I'm now this old stuff like, who the hell are you, having a chat. I heard the other day of this guy that spent 10 days, on one of the spacecraft. I thought to myself, gee, lucky bastard,
No doubt.
I must tell you the story now. I'm very alien orientated now. My first wife, I was married to my first wife, and I always said to her, I said, listen here, you must know something, and know it now. I said, when the aliens land, I'm going with. Do you understand me? I was serious.
Yeah.
I was dead serious. And the other day, we still friends,
Yeah.
And she said to me, she said, you know what, Vic? She said, when you were so serious about this, she said, how worried I was, that I was just going to, that you would just be prepared to leave me,
Yeah.
and that.
I've heard plenty of stories of that happening. Yeah. Yeah.
Yes, I
Yeah.
said to her.
But mine would be the other way around. If the aliens came, they could take my missus.
Yeah, they could take my wife. Yeah, that'd be better, wouldn't it?
Well, that might be lucky as well, Yeah, but I said in no uncertain terms, Now my current wife, now she's quite happy with that. She's just got one thing. She said I must come pick her up, because she said if I don't come pick her up and they bring me back, she's gonna definitely make big trouble for me, when I don't take her with. But yes, I've always had an exceptionally contact, with extraterrestrials. I've got no doubt, where they are, and I do understand this dimensional thing. Like for instance, I mean, in my life, I get a lot of messages, strange messages. Like, I was one day, watching this whole financial system and stuff like that, and one day, the thought came to me. And I think this is something that the first group of extraterrestrials enhanced, and I got this thought, and it said, you know what, your planet is run by extraterrestrials, bad extraterrestrials, and this suddenly made sense, and I do believe it. I believe that they were here long before us, and we are manipulated with the current political system and the financial system, and the big pharma and stuff like that. That to me just makes sense, that you've got the extraterrestrials, and then you've got these 13 families, the Rothschilds and your queen and stuff like that, and whatever, the whole lot, and then it branches out, and and then there's obviously people underneath him, and there's probably a few thousand people in charge of the entire world. But right on top, I do believe that there's been a negative extraterrestrials, out there, doing this whole thing. But I do also believe that when we as a human race, get our act together and we start loving each other and respecting each other and stuff like that, they won't have a foothold to stand on. Because I do believe that they do, feed on our fear.
Yeah, they do.
And our suffering.
They need that fear. They need that kind of low frequency to survive. Without that low frequency, they can't survive. They'll have to go. They'll have to be kicked out.
Exactly. Yes, and I mean, I'm a very, staunch follower, of, the late. I mean, I only watch, alternative news, and this pedogate stuff, and I mean that's all positive things, things are coming out, and then the Vatican and so on and so on, I mean that to me just makes all sense, Yep.
Yeah, I've always said that the Vatican is a kingpin of the low astral realms, or the evil, whatever you want to say. It is the kingpin. Take down that. Good night, Vienna. Game over.
Game over. Yes. Yeah.
Game over.
Yeah. I think that and the financial system. I mean, that is just hampering literally everybody. I mean, from the filthy, stinking rich, because they've got too much money, and I mean they suffer from overdose and drugs like that because they've got access to that and crappy aircraft, and they kill themselves in that, and fast cars, and then you get the people on the lower end, you know, the middle people and the lower end, and I mean they're literally dying of hunger. I mean, you know, because of the whole money system, you know.
Yeah.
So I believe when
I've
deal
always
with
said,
that.
you know, you've been run by psychopaths. You know, the lunatics run the asylum. You know.
No, yes, no, for sure we are. And you know what? This is the whole contrast, you know, with this whole extraterrestrial thing, is that, and I mean, Dolores Cannon, you know, I mean, I've listened to a lot of it.
Huge fan.
And great. And I mean, she says basically, very little of your alien abductions and alien contact is negative. They're actually rather more positive. I think people, you know, maybe, I think laying on a bed and having a needle stuck to your eye, you know, into your brain, I mean, that's most definitely traumatic, you know. But basically, I have found, in my personal experience, that the extraterrestrials are rather more benevolent, you know. They're rather more good guys.
Yeah.
Well, I've got to say, it's a fascinating story, George, and if...
Thank you. Hey, it's been a fascinating, George. Really,
thank you.
Thank you so much for coming on.
Yeah, absolutely. And if anything happens in the future, we'd love to hear it.
Yeah,
so.
we'd love to get you back on because you sound, you know.
As I say, when you're ready, just send me the link, and then I can listen to it, and I will rebroadcast it. Yeah, the people are very excited on our radio station as well. And a blessed evening for you.
Okay.
So, great story.
Great story, yeah. Great
chat.
stuff there, yeah. We'll definitely get George Victor on again.
Yeah.
So, definitely.
Like I say, great fellow. Good laugh.
He's the kind of guy you like just going to a pub with, wouldn't
Yeah,
you?
absolutely.
A few beers,
yeah.
sit there, and you know, yeah.
Especially
maybe one day.
Especially down in South Africa, it seems pretty warm out there at the moment.
Well,
so.
he did say it was pretty hot out there, and he asked us what we, you know, we was at what 6 degrees on it. So
yeah, terrible. Yeah.
Yeah. Well.
So that's that then. So the next story is a ghost story.
Yeah, Tyler.
Tyler Bell. And Tyler runs a podcast of his own called West Side Fairy Tales, which he self-narrates his own stories, fairy tales and that, which, you know, some good work gone into them tales. They're pretty good. Good.
He's a good kind of talker as well, isn't he? You know, he's clear.
Yeah,
you know,
that definitely comes across in his podcast for sure. Yeah. So if you like narrated podcasts,
you
know, I would go check that out. It's called West Side Fairy Tales, and I'll put a link in the description if you want to find it that way.
He's also ex-Marine, so he don't give a shit anyway. So it's quite a decent one.
Yeah, which is good because he's telling ghost stories from a Marine's perspective, which you don't generally hear, do you? So
he didn't mess about with the stories. He just told us it was.
So
brilliant.
We'll get into that then. Should we play that?
Yeah. Okay. Listen to Tyler.
I don't necessarily believe in like ghosts. Like John is back from the dead, but I do definitely believe in like
the Star Tape theory,
kind of hang on shit like a scum.
Yeah.
You know, like it molds over, and that's very much the place. I'll just jump in. So
go.
Yeah. Go.
2006, we get deployed to Iraq. I was in the infantry, 2nd Battalion, 8th Marine Golf Company. And I don't know where any of this stuff was in relation because I was a grunt and I just did what I was told. Like, I was, wake up, go places, go to sleep when they tell you to.
Yeah.
So eventually they're like, okay, we're going to be going to a place. We're taking you guys off of this post that you're on out in Al-Saqlawiyah, where a town no one's ever heard of. And that's where we lived. And they're like, okay, we're going to take you out of here, and you're going to go do a special detail here for a couple weeks. I'm like, okay, whatever. And then, like, right before we go, they're like, okay, you're going to Abu Ghraib prison. We're like, what, from the fucking news? Are you serious? And they're like, yeah. So we go there, and what it was when the army was there is that it's a fairly large open area. Like, it's almost nothing in the square mile, except for, I think there's either 4 or 6 cell blocks and then a few outbuildings. We didn't go into all of them because the Iraqi army lived in one of them, and then the officers lived in another one with, like, some of the army people that were still left, but there weren't many. And then we lived out in the old guard quarters, which were 4 tiny buildings with, like, broken toilets in the middle of, like, just this flat, sandy area. And where the army was, when they actually had tons of people there, you could still see like the marks on the ground, but that was mostly empty now. And then aside from that, it was just silence. I don't know if you've ever been like in the desert and heard like desert level silence, but it's very similar to like right after a bad snow day, where it's kind of almost like you have mufflers on over your ears. Yeah. And so it was kind of always that. So we're always talking and trying to do stuff because like it's eerie when you're not. And then there's also the pervasive kind of constant like, hey, somebody might climb up on the wall and just, decide to start shooting in here at any given time. So, kind of constant paranoia that comes with being in a war zone. But, yeah, so we got there, we got kind of settled, and then after that we didn't have anything to do except for once a day we would go out on patrols and patrol the wall in a truck and go to see all of the posts that the Iraqis were on, and we'd go up and talk to them, ham, pidgin, Arabic, and they would be like, okay, yes, sir, this is fine. All right, thanks, man. And so when we didn't do that, we had a lot of free time, and they try to keep us occupied. I mean, this place is big enough inside that we actually set up a shooting range inside the campus. Yeah. And we would go around, and it's not like weird things started happening, but like we all got like really after each other's throats, and we're trying to do stuff. But I think the first weird thing is definitely when they found Saddam Hussein's torture chambers, which were in there. And they were in, it was like D block or E block. And it was a gross looking 2-story building. And everything here is shades of brown. So it's like light brown sand, slightly darker brown buildings. And then this place was like a dingy, dark brown, and no one went to it. And birds wouldn't land on the fucking thing. And they didn't let me go in because I was on post, so they just snuck off. So it's basically what they called it Scooby-Doo ops, and it was just other higher-ranking guys from my team that had been in a year or two longer than me. They would just leave in the middle of the day and go sneak around and look at the shit. And they're like, yeah, that place is fucking no good. And we're like, okay, yeah, fine. And we were joking about that shit, yeah, this place is probably fucking haunted. And then, stuff only got, a little weirder and weirder after that. So, we went to one of the cell blocks, right? And they're, okay, we're going to do a room clearing exercise on this entire giant building, because you'll never have an opportunity like this. So we take all of our magazines out of our guns, and we're completely, not unarmed, but our guns don't have any bullets in them, and our magazines are, secured so that no one loads one. And we're going to pretend, basically, that this place is full of enemies, run around, and clear it out. Okay. So, there's a bunch of us in here, and somebody starts throwing smoke as grenades, which is part of the plan. But the building is small and kind of claustrophobic, and the smoke fills everything up to the point where you can barely see, and it's actually almost giving you, a little bit of trouble breathing just because the particulates are so thick. And me and my buddy, Kuchenmeister, who I'm going to call Cooch for the rest of this because his name's too long, that's what we called him when we were in. And we're on one part, and it's okay, everybody, we're clearing up, and you can barely see anybody. So it's shadows, 6 or 7 feet away from you, and then you kind of just fade back into the fog. And there's someone down the hall from us, and we're like, hey man, you're past the exercise point. Come on, let's go. We're clearing in because they're giving us the circle up sign, which is hey, everybody, get in here. And the guy wouldn't respond, and we're like, dude, stop being a fucking dick. And we were saying it was, I think, Nelson that was with us, and we're like, dude, come on, let's go. And he just didn't, and we couldn't see him, and it was really dark, and then we moved back, and hey, do you guys is Nelson here? And Nelson was already there. He's like, dude, dumbasses, I've been here. What took you guys so long? We're fucking waiting for you. What are you talking about? And he's like, dude, I've been here the whole time. And our squad was completely up. We were the last two in. We're like, dude, there's somebody still in there. And they're like, no, there's not. And then we went in and tried to find whoever was still in there, because we figured maybe it was one of the Iraqis got lost or something, but none of them were off post. Everybody was good, but there was somebody still in that damn building, moving around. And I guess to speak more to the atmosphere of this place, all these buildings are huge and empty, and no glass or anything, so wind is constantly blowing through them, except for, of course, this one. And it's making like these, sounds in the walls, and randomly these giant, probably 250-pound steel doors that they had. You know, the old bar, like, prison doors would slam shut at random intervals during the day. And you could hear them even when you're outside of the building, even if you're like a quarter mile away on the other side of the base. You just hear, ka-chow, chow, like one of them slamming shut. And this is constant the entire time we're here. Even when we're on this op, running around inside this thing, you hear, boosh, 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 and then like nothing for like 15 minutes, and boosh. And so,
wind ain't gonna do that, is it?
No.
No. It can't, there's nothing for it to catch.
Yeah.
And so, that was definitely one of the weirdest ones. And there was another one. We were walking through one of the cell blocks, probably northeast of the one of where we lived, and it's a very large open building. And then when you get into where the officers and stuff hung out, and like the I guess maybe it's like a mess area or where they prayed. Those are kind of big, but then once you get into the cell blocks, they're like, I think 2 or 3 stories, and fairly small cells. I mean, they're the size of, I don't know if you've ever been into like an apartment that has like a nice walk-in closet, and you're like, that's surprisingly big for a closet. That's as big as the biggest cell is. And they have like racks in them, and then like, what do you call it? A cabinet. Not like a full-size storage thing, but like little tiny metal cabinets. And I don't know if those were put in afterwards or whatever, but they say like during the time, those, when it was in use for Saddam, those would be 7 deep, people 7 deep in there. And I mean, they're covered in graffiti, like just clawed into the wall. There's stuff on the walls that's, you're like, okay, that's definitely from like maybe like a tar pencil or something. Don't know what that is. I hope that's not like dried shit or blood. Just, stuff smeared on it. And it's not like it's like, some Blumhouse horror story, like nightmare shit. It's just like a little bit here and there. You're like, this is gross. And, we'd mess around with each other like, hey man, I'm going to lock you in the cell. I think somebody might have gotten locked in one of the cells, which I'm glad it wasn't me. But we're walking down one of these, doing another like patrol thing, kind of looking around. And these cell blocks are seriously like 200-300 meters long, like fairly long, skinny hallway. And for whatever reason, we're walking through here, and there is a bouncy ball the size of my fist. Like, well, maybe half the size of my fist. But you know what I'm talking about? One of those rocket balls you can throw and it'll bounce off. Yeah. It's on the ground. And we're like, what in the fuck is this doing here? And Mercado, who's with me, you don't really need to know his name, but yeah, Mercado kicks this thing down the hall, right? And as soon as he kicks it, we were watching it go up. Literally, like, there's nowhere else to look. It's just 3 of us walking down this hallway. He kicks it up the hallway, it vanishes, and then rolls back up from behind us in a second. And we're like, dude, did that just bounce up from there? And he's like, no. I'm like, did you see that? Like, yeah. And then, hand to God, 3 full-grown Marines wearing flak jackets, helmets, fully loaded down with M16A4 assault rifles, sprinted out of that motherfucker so goddamn fast, dude. We came up on some of the other guys who were like, what happened? We're like, nothing. We just ran away from a bouncy ball.
So you actually saw it vanish?
It like rolled into like the distance. You know what I'm saying? Where like kind of can't see it anymore.
Right into the dark, and then just reappeared behind you like ET shit.
Yeah. And like it didn't bounce off anything. It would have had to come right down past us. What in the fuck just happened? Yeah. Very strange. I don't know. Like,
did you ever see that ball again?
No, we didn't go back to that area again. We fucking avoided that shit like the plague. And still, the whole time all of this is happening, just a constant, just the sound of the wind just howling through these places and doors. Even while that's happening, like, it never stopped. It's almost like hard to tell a story about it because you don't get the full effect of just
how creepy it is.
Yeah. And yeah, when we finally got out of there, it was like everybody was very, very, very happy about it. And
what was the lighting situation in this building?
Natural light only.
Okay, yeah.
So when we went out at night, basically, if you had to do anything, even if you had to use the head, we had a Surefire. I don't know if you know what that is, but it's a light that attaches to your rifle, which is fairly bright, but you can take it off. And we'd walk around with those, and walking around in those prisons with those things is, like, not ideal. Like, there's a reason you have those big spreads on normal flashlights, so you can see, and these are, like, almost like horror movie style. You can only see exactly what you're pointing at.
Yeah, more like a laser than a...
Yeah. Basically, it's more designed to illuminate whatever you're shooting at and blind them than it is to actually, like, light up a big area.
Fuck.
Where was the most, in your experience then, Tyler, where's the most oppressive, in the atmosphere, what you felt, what was the most oppressive area in that place?
Oh, by far it was the D block area, or I can't remember exactly what we called it, but it was where the executions stuff and the torture chambers were. And, no one was allowed to go over there. It was actually like we were prohibited from going over there. We also weren't allowed to use cameras or anything. You're kind of generally not supposed to do that when you're in Iraq. But we actually had one of our staff sergeants came by and confiscated every single camera that he found, and the chips and stuff and deleted stuff. So I took some pictures while I was there, and I got in trouble for it when he found my camera. But that place we're not allowed to go there, and you could see it, it just had its own vibe, and there's birds everywhere in Iraq. You might not expect it, but there's these tiny little finch things, and there's ravens sometimes, like rooks or whatever, and none of them would go near this place. They wouldn't land anywhere near it. Everywhere else on the base, they were fine, but they wouldn't go near that motherfucker.
What was the reason given as to why you couldn't go over there?
I think because of what it was. The Iraqis obviously were on the base still, too. And like I said, this place has a history and, cultural relationship with the populace. So
it's almost like turning a blind eye kind of thing.
Yeah, and the Marines is always redundancy as far as, keeping people safe. So it's all right, the Army already fucked up here. The last thing we need to do is have some jackass Lance Corporal go in and try to pull off a hunk of, I don't know, Uday Hussein's pneumatic guillotine thing.
Right, I'm just going to open this beer.
Yeah.
It's got a widget in it.
It's got a widget in it.
Not fine.
Oh, bollocks. I don't know if you have them in the States, do you?
What is that?
A widget.
I've heard the term widget before for computers.
You get it in draft beer, draft ales. It just stops it being too fizzy. It's like a little ball. It's just basically a ball, isn't it?
Yeah.
Just stop.
Oh, yeah, like in a Guinness.
Yeah, that's what I'm drinking. Yeah, Guinness. Yeah. But okay, so that's done. I didn't want that to be, I've been waiting for you to pause. I didn't want to, spoil the moment. But
oh no, go ahead.
So everybody that was stationed there, do you get the feeling that everybody that was stationed... I know because some guys don't like talking about this kind of stuff, especially if it creeps them out and all the rest of it, but did you get the feeling that everybody that was stationed there felt the same way?
Everybody thought Abu Ghraib was weird as shit, at least.
Yeah.
And if not, haunted. I kind of only talked to my, team, obviously, because we were always rolling around together. But, everyone was like, this place is fucking weird. No one was not happy to leave when we finally left there to go back to sitting on a bridge that got mortared and stuff all the time. We're like, all right, I'm done with Abu Ghraib. Take me back to the fucking firefights.
So did anything else happen there then?
No, it's a strange place. Holes in walls, make no sense. Like a big 3-foot diameter hole through a 1.5-foot thick concrete prison wall. I'm like, why is this here? And constant weirdness. Yeah, but other than that, no, just the stuff we heard about. Like the Iraqi national football team used to play there. I don't know if you know about them, but they have kind of a spurious legacy. Do you know who Uday Hussein is?
The son.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Psycho.
Yeah.
Well-known nut job. He oversaw them because he's a huge soccer fan, and obviously every time they played outside of Iraq, people would try to run for it. And when they lost, he would get butthurt about it and break people's arms and legs and throw them into a drowning pool that was apparently at Abu G. I think that was in the D block area. But they practiced there too. Their practice fields were inside of the prison. Which
you would not want to play for that team, would you?
No, wouldn't, no.
Imagine the need to win.
I know, yeah. You'd be giving bribes, wouldn't you? Just
Yeah.
to let us win, for fuck's sake.
Yeah. I would like the goalkeeper. Letting goals, I bet it's a different goalkeeper every
Every game, yeah, like Spinal Tap's drummer.
Yeah. Oh,
I literally exploded too.
absolutely, yeah.
Fucking hell. But so, as for the place itself, then, because obviously you hear stories coming out of Iraq itself. I mean, was there anything else that you heard about from your forces out there?
Like our people, not too much. I know even some of the people that we took over for were like, yeah, the place is no good. Like, hearing stuff in the middle of the night, like seeing people like walking around,
Yeah.
shapes and stuff. And we probably saw some stuff like that too. And we just thought it was, people. You never know. It's just already a weird enough situation being in a war zone and having people kind of being in the free for all that is, that it's hard to get context to say like, oh, this is actually that sort of weirdness.
Yeah. Fair enough. Yeah.
Yeah.
Just
But
that,
the Iraqis.
So I had a mate that was out in Afghanistan, and he came back with stories of the Bigfoots that they'd seen out there. The Americans had seen up on the hills. There was one night where he. Should I tell this story? I might as well tell the story. There was one night where they were travelling somewhere in Afghanistan, and they held up on the night just in this basically a desert. And it was flanked by some mountain range, and there'd been rumours that there'd been snipers on these particular mountains. Okay, so they circled the wagons as you do, and they and there was he was a truck driver at the time, and they were sleeping in the back. In the middle of the night, he wakes up and he can hear this chanting, the usual sort of chant, like the yo man, you mob. And he's thinking, what the fuck is that? And he said at first he thought he was dreaming, because of the situation and the paranoia, like I say, and all the rest of it. And then he sort of woke up a bit more, and eventually he was wide awake, and he could still hear this chanting going on. Then he jumps out of the wagon, comes back round the side, looks in the back, and his mate's sleeping bag's there, and his mate's not there. He was sleeping in the back of the wagon. And he can still hear this chanting going on. So he follows, he picks up his rifle, goes out, follows this chanting, and eventually he comes to his mate sitting on the ground, cross-legged, and he walks in front of him and he says, "What are you doing, you silly bastard?" You know what I mean? And he's just sitting there, and he walks in front of him and his eyes were shut. And he stood looking at him and he's talking to him, and the guy's just completely oblivious that he's there. And he said the weird thing was, well, I mean, that was weird anyway, but he said the weirder thing was that this guy was just stacking rocks in a pyramid in front of him, just little pebbles, like a big pebble, then a smaller pebble, in a pyramid shape, and then dismantling it and then doing it again, just sitting there cross-legged doing that with his eyes closed and chanting. And anyway, you're not supposed to wake people, are you, if they're sleepwalking? But he did, you know what I mean, because of the situation and where there was. He woke him up because obviously there was off the path as well, so you've got IEDs and all the rest of it. So he's just wandered in this rock field basically. So he gets him, wakes him up, and he said, "What the fuck am I doing out here?" And he said, "I don't know. I was hoping you was going to tell me." Anyway, drags him back to the truck, and he said they sat in the cab and they was talking about what had just happened. The lights were off, for obvious reasons, and at that point they saw like flickering lights on the hillside. And this hill was about probably a half a mile away from the road, like. But they could see these flickering lights, and straight away he's a bit worried. You know what I mean? Because they had the rumours that there was meant to be people, surgeons, hid up in these hills. Anyway, they see these flickering lights, and nothing happened. Next morning, he tells the guy in command, and they log it in a book. When they get back to wherever they was going, this base, they logged it in this book, and he flipped through this book, and he'd seen there'd been 5 or 6 reports of exactly the same thing taking place in exactly the same area up on this hillside, and they'd sent people up, they'd sent helicopters up and all sorts of stuff up on this hillside, and they haven't found nobody up there, but just these weird blue flickering lights.
There you go. Weird shit, mate.
You know?
Yeah. Shit gets weird at night on post. And it's like one of those things you don't know if you're tripping out or if maybe it's something. My buddy Ledford, I'll give you guys another one if you don't mind. This isn't Abu Ghraib, but he was in a bad area where they lost a few guys, and they were in constant firefights basically the entire time that we were deployed. And he was on post one night on a truck. So basically they had a temporary setup, and he was on a 7-ton truck, which is like a semi-truck sort of, that's got a fixed back. You've probably seen. Yeah. They're the large green ones. And this one had a turret top. So basically where the driver is, there's a hole in the top, and they had a turret on there, which is not super common for 7 tons. And he was on there with a machine gun, and it was like probably 2 or 3 in the morning, he said. And he is not the kind of guy to even deal with this shit, you know? He's like, I'm not into paranormal stuff. And he's like, dude, I was sitting there, and 15, 20 yards from me, I see a black ball on the ground, and it starts getting bigger, and all the shadows start coming up to it. And he said it built up like a wax candle melting in reverse, and it was a very large thing. And it got bigger and bigger until it was almost the size of the truck, and then it started shifting toward him in the night. He's like, I couldn't see through it. He's like, I was awake. I was pinching myself and slapping myself, and this thing is just moving straight toward me. He's like, I thought I was asleep or I was losing my mind. And then eventually I just flipped on all the lights, because he had a big light on the gun, and the thing poofed away around where the light was and went away. And he's like, dude, I thought I was going to die, and I have no idea why. He's like, it couldn't have been real. It couldn't have been real. But he's like, I was fucking terrified. Yeah. So who knows, man? If it's war zone.
Yeah.
I bet everybody's got a million stories like that, but you don't know whether or not to attribute it to something like paranormal stuff or just being crazy paranoid because of where you are.
Yeah, it's fair enough. But it just, especially in the situation and all the rest of it, and the guys that we're talking about, I wonder how much of this stuff is ever expressed. I think a lot of people take this stuff to the grave of them.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
They'll end up thinking they're loonies or something,
yeah. Well, there's always that element of ridicule, isn't there?
Yeah, of course there is, yeah.
But,
especially in the Marines, everybody's going with them at anything.
But, well, we should say thank you very much for your service.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Tyler. It's been fantastic.
Thanks for your support.
It's guys like you that keep us safe. So.
Yeah, absolutely.
But it's been a pleasure talking to you. And do you want to tell people about your podcast while you're here?
Yeah, sure, if you don't mind. West Side Fairy Tales podcast. I read and write stories. I write stories and I read them. It's the first Friday of every month, and they're about 30 to 45 minutes long. You can find out more at Westside iTunes, bit.ly.com/Westside iTunes, or just westsidefairytales.com.
Yeah, fair enough.
That's great.
If you like, narrated stories, it's a podcast for you, because, like you say, great narration, great voice.
Thank you.
Great stories.
Yep.
And,
thanks, Tyler.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, thanks so much, guys.
Okay, so
see what whatever you heard on the show today, just let us know. Email us, or on the Hangout, or just let us know what you thought.
So it's email is dbtopodcast@gmail.com. Obviously, you can visit the website, and that's just don'tbreakthe.oath podcast.com, or you can find us on Facebook. Just type "Don't Break the Oath podcast.
Yeah.
Paranormal Hangout. And you find us easy. You can either direct message me or Andy.
Yep.
No, it's not a problem. If you've got a story to share, we'd love to hear it.
Yep. And please keep sending the reviews. Please. They're really
definitely.
very important to us.
But I think that story from Randy about the ball, that would be really creepy, wouldn't it?
What's that? Oh, the ball. Yeah. That was like, what was that film with Jack Nicholson? What was that one, Lee? It was that Strange House one? It went in going nuts.
What,
there was a little ball there.
The Shining. Yeah.
Was it Shining?
Yeah.
There's kind of a football there and it kept coming, someone kicked it and then it kept coming back or something down the stairs and that. Something like that, wasn't it? But of course, Tyler was actually, this is, you got 4 or 5 Marines, and to run out of a building, it must have spoken to them really
absolutely,
bad.
yeah. I mean, just the place itself would creep me out anyway,
I would
Not to mention being in a war zone as well.
Yeah, obviously Tyler said that they couldn't go in one part, obviously, because it's the really bad shit one in there. But it would have been kind of cool to say, I looked in it and this was in it, but obviously he only speculated what was in that building.
Yeah, I don't think psychics would want to go in that building.
No, I don't think I would have gone in either. I wouldn't have gone in there.
But
I even said birds won't even land on that part. There's thousands of birds
that's
nesting everywhere, but that place they keep away from.
That's when that
tells you something, doesn't it?
No, it's bad shit.
Bad shit, definitely, yeah.
But right, so that's it for this week then.
Yeah.
Next week's going to be slightly different, but we won't give too much away here.
Nope. Have to wait and find out.
Indeed, you'll either love it or hate it. I think.
You'll
Well, it's strange, whatever, whichever way you square it. So. Until next week, have a great week.
Yeah, have a great week.
And say reviews if you can. Yep. If not, just come and say hello on Facebook.
Yep,
we'd love to chat with anybody. So thank you very much. So see you next week.
Bye now.
Well, they've gone. No, just for now. It wasn't the right time for us to meet. But there'll be other nights, other stars for us to watch. They'll be back.